And then let's cover. Finally, we just wanted to talk about a quick update about the wide receivers coach search for Tennessee football, and just say there really hasn't been much that's come out about it, and that in itself is kind of interesting that there hasn't really been any news. We still don't really know where Heupel is going with it. Have you heard anything, Zach?
There's been a few names kind of thrown out there, but none of them really have any strong connections to Tennessee, except David Johnson, the former Tennessee assistant, wide receivers coach, running backs coach under Jeremy Pruitt, who's at Florida State. Apparently, he's a real possibility, but it's just kind of been rumors and just kind of stuff thrown out there. Tennessee is set to have a big recruiting weekend, this coming weekend, starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whenever, Junior Day. They've got to have a wide receivers coach in by this weekend, I would think. I think something will happen anytime this week, maybe this evening, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. I think somebody's here by this weekend because, like you said, you just need it. But I trust Heupel to make the hire. I mean, I didn't know half of his staff when they came here. I mean, I don't think any of us really did. Who knew who Alex Golish was or Glenn Ellerby, who was just looked like he was mentioned. Georgia hired an offensive line coach today. I can't remember who they hired. It was real interesting. Is I think Austin Price from VolQuest might have reported that Todd Monken, who's back at Georgia, kind of pushed back against Will Friend, the former Tennessee offensive line coach, pushed back against him being the hire because Will Friend and Mike Bobo, who's also back at Georgia, are kind of close friends. So Monken did not like what Will Friend had done at Tennessee, and I think he was at Auburn most recently. But Glenn Ellerby for Tennessee was mentioned for that job too. It was kind of a name that had been tossed out there by the Georgia side of things, their rivals site that covers Georgia. So you've got these guys that nobody had really ever heard of that suddenly Alex Golish is being pursued by like Ole Miss and Miami, and then maybe Ellerby's an option at Georgia. So that, to me, you got to trust whoever Heupel hires. I'm not going to criticize it, whoever it is.
I won't question it. We covered it. If you want our sort of in-depth take on it, we covered it last week in full. We kind of said, these sort of trendy names were getting thrown out there, Trooper Taylor and guys. I don't care if it's Trooper Taylor, great. If it's somebody who I have literally never heard of, great. Because who am I to question this? It's not like I have some great insight on the pipeline of wide receivers coaches in college football. I think hopefully Heupel has some insight on that, and his staff has done a good job so far. So more power to him. Obviously, we will talk about it whenever that name drops. As far as this podcast usually goes, that will probably come in about 4 hours from the time that we record this, and or like tomorrow morning, maybe. Just it will that news will probably drop the second we post this online. That's when it'll happen to make this segment as irrelevant as possible. But whoever it is, we'll cover it next week. And then on the note that you brought up there in terms of why they kind of need someone in a quick sense, you would think big recruiting weekend, and specifically wrote an article about this kid last weekend and where he might go to school. But quarterback, 5-star quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, however you might say his name. I apologize to all parties involved for how I butchered that. But coming to Tennessee for the report was a full 3-day visit, which is pretty out of the ordinary. But you're going to have this kid's attention for an extended period of time, and Tennessee needs this kid bad. The predictions are Oregon currently. That is the common knowledge with him so far, is that what's the defensive coordinator from Georgia is the coach at Oregon now.
Lanning.
Dan Lanning.
And supposedly, I think that might be kind of a lazy prediction, especially this early on before he's really taking the visits, and there's more kind of intel on that because he's a West Coast kid. He's from California, so Oregon, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Alabama, Georgia. Those are the main ones after Nico, and Alabama and Georgia and really Ole Miss are all after Arch Manning first. We talked about that before. So really this feels like it's mainly between Tennessee and Oregon. I mean, not to rule out Alabama and Georgia totally, because who knows what they could pull off or decide. They could switch gears. I don't know. And Arch could do something crazy and commit this summer. But it feels for now like Georgia is the main team that Tennessee has to beat out here. So this weekend is going to be huge. You really got to make a good impression on this kid. And look, he said that he wants to go where he's wanted. It's not going to necessarily be a geographical decision, which is why I don't think fans should fret that Oregon prediction too much right now. Maybe if it was closer to when he was going to commit, which is kind of expected to be May, it'd be a little more concerning. I think Tennessee, they're gonna he's their number one guy, and they're going to show him that, and it could make a big impact. He's the type that's not just going to make a real emotional decision. He almost reminds me of like in an Arch Manning type way, where he's going to do his due diligence, take his time, consider other things besides NIL money and things like that. Like he's really going to go to a school for what the school is. Now, obviously, the NIL stuff could still come into play because money's money. I mean, that's just a fact of life. But that's why I feel like Tennessee has a legit shot here, and it's been a while since I've thought that about them and a 5-star quarterback.
You have a lot to sell to this kid. An incredibly powerful offense, and a powerful offense with inferior players this past year. Not to bog down on them too much. It was a good set of players for sure, but compared to some of the teams that you played, an inferior set of players, and you still were able to torch a whole bunch of defenses. And you have a quarterback that puts up huge numbers and looks really good, and is on a lot of these Heisman short lists for this coming year. And it's all because of Heupel's system. I mean, you got a lot to sell a kid like Nico here, and I'm sure they will. I have no doubt at all they're going to put the hard sell on him. Is their number one option? He did even, you wrote about this at AZSports.com. He met Jamal Lewis at the Rivals Los Angeles camp, and they made quick friends there. Hopefully Jamal put in a good word for us. And I mean, at least you would hope. He is one of the Tennessee players. He doesn't come around very often to Knoxville.
I've seen him at a few games here and there.
Does he? Okay, but he's not one.
Twice.
He's not one that comes around a ton. There are definitely some players that pop up a lot, and he's not really in that set. But he does still come around, and apparently they met at a camp in Los Angeles, and that's on A2ZSports.com if you want to read about it. I think literally was that today. I think you wrote about that earlier today.
This morning, yeah.
And so it would be huge. I don't think that you can undersell what that would do for Tennessee's recruiting right now to have a bona fide across the board 5-star in the fold, and then you sell the ability to sell that to other kids is so huge. To Butch Jones fed off of this a lot. Like he was able to get, I don't know who committed early enough, like Trey Smith and some of those classes, and was able to kind of go like, hey, we got him here. That's kind of the foundation. Why don't you come here and we're going to build a championship team? And you can really go, we got a 5-star already. How about you bring your 5-star self in here? And all of a sudden we got a really good team going. And that would be massive. But to go back to the current predictions, On3.com, which is sort of the new kid on the block as far as recruiting analysis goes, I believe, not part of 247, but started by Shannon Terry from 247.
Yeah, something like that.
It's kind of confusing. I don't know what the ownership is there, but nonetheless, they have this computer algorithm that they put in to get the chances for where a kid will commit for college currently. Iamaleava, he's sitting at 12% for Tennessee. So not amazing odds, but also his number one choice, Oregon, is only at like 36%. So it's still essentially up in the air. You put the hard sell in on this kid right now and really do your best, and hopefully those odds improve. Don't get beat out by Dan Lanning at Oregon, please. That would suck. Although geography-wise, it makes a little more sense. Kids from California, you'd be a lot closer to home in Oregon, and to a certain extent, you can't beat that out. You can't move the state of Tennessee closer to California, but I think the chances are there for Tennessee. Just capitalize. We need this kid badly, and if not him, some of these elite players. Like we got to start landing some of these big recruits to be able to sell to other recruits. But we'll just have to see. Like you said, it looks like May, right? And I think he himself said that. Nico himself said May. We'll see how.
I mean, landing an elite quarterback like that, that's when your program's going to fully turn around. I mean, you can't do it without that.
No.
So this will be a big one, and they got to figure it out. If they miss on him, it's just going to set the program back in another year, unless one of these guys that they've got turns out to be, better than we expected, or, maybe Taven Jackson turns out to be an elite quarterback. You never know. It does happen sometimes. So we'll just have to see.